Hey everyone, today we are diving into a silent crisis that is absolutely hammering modern leadership, burnout. You know, the demands on leaders have just gone through the roof, but the playbook they're using to cope, it's fundamentally broken. So we're going to explore why the old rules of time management are failing so badly and what a new, energy-focused approach can do to fix it.
So let's just start with a number that should really make you stop and think. In 2024, a staggering 56% of leaders reported being burned out. Now, this isn't just feeling a little tired after a long week. No, this is a chronic state of exhaustion that's pretty much becoming the new normal.
And you might be wondering, where is all this coming from? Well, this next number offers a huge clue. 73% of C-level executives are working without enough rest. They are consistently, day in and day out, running on fumes. And as we're about to see, that comes with a massive, massive cost.
And here's where it really hits the bottom line. When a burned-out C-level exec finally walks away, replacing them can cost up to 213% of their annual salary. This proves that burnout isn't just some personal problem to be dealt with quietly. It is a catastrophic liability for the entire organization.
So all of this leads us to a really critical question. With these intense pressures, is burnout just the price you have to pay for leadership today? Is it inevitable? Well, the research suggests no. The problem isn't the pressure itself, it's how we're wired to manage it.
For decades, the answer was always time management. This relentless push to cram more and more into the same 24 hours. But that is a losing game. The new paradigm, the real game changer, is energy management. This isn't about working more hours, it's about maximizing the quality of your energy within those hours. It's like shifting from just staring at the clock to actually checking your internal battery. And trust me, that changes everything.
All right, so to solve this, we first have to understand the root cause. So in this first part, we're going to dig into the science of the drain, the specific things that are just sucking leaders' energy reserves dry.
Now, let's be super clear about what burnout actually is. It is not just feeling tired. The Mayo Clinic defines it as this three-part collapse. First, there's the physical and emotional exhaustion we all kind of know. Then, there's this creeping feeling of reduced accomplishment, like nothing you do matters. And finally, a loss of your personal identity. It is a full-blown crisis on multiple fronts.
So what's causing this collapse? Well, the usual suspects are probably going to look pretty familiar to you. At the top of the list, chronic sleep deprivation, the weird paradox of being exhausted from sitting all day, the complete myth of multitasking, and an absolutely crushing overload of meetings. Let's just zoom in on multitasking for a second. So many leaders wear it like a badge of honor, but the human brain literally cannot do it. It just switches tasks really, really fast, and every single switch has a cost. And that cost? A potential drop in your productivity of up to 40%. You feel incredibly busy, but you're actually getting less done.
And wow, this chart just perfectly illustrates the meeting problem. While the average employee is in about 8 meetings a week, leaders are in 17. That's more than double, and every single one of those meetings demands decisions, which contributes to this cognitive fatigue that just tanks your judgment as the day goes on.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the drain. That was the bad news. But here's the most exciting part of this whole story. We are not just victims here. We can be active creators of our own energy. So let's flip the script and dive into the science of the game. The key insight here is that creating energy is a proactive strategy, and it's built on 4 main pillars. It all starts with non-negotiable, high-quality sleep. Then it requires intentional movement to break up that sedentary workday. It's fueled by strategic nutrition, not just random snacking, and it's all sustained by mindfulness practices that build your resilience. And, getting started doesn't have to be some overwhelming life change. Look at this, just 10 minutes of getting your heart rate up, we're talking a brisk walk between calls or just taking the stairs, is enough to cut down on stress hormones and give you a real, measurable boost in productivity. It's an incredibly high-return activity for a tiny investment. Quality sleep isn't about luck. It's about discipline and process. This timeline shows you the simple rules for success. Your last hit of caffeine should be around 2 p.m., no alcohol within 3 hours of bed because it just wrecks your sleep quality. And here's the big one. Power down all your screens 60 minutes before you plan to sleep. These small rules create a huge, huge impact.
So we know what drains our energy, and we know what creates it. Now for the most important part. How do we turn all that insight into a concrete personal action plan? This is your energy playbook.
You can't manage what you don't measure, right? So the very first step is a simple energy audit. For just 1 week, track these 4 things: your sleep,
your movement, what you're eating and drinking, and, this is crucial, what activities or people actually gave you energy versus what left you feeling drained. This simple awareness is the foundation for any real change.
Next, let's redesign the workday itself to align with our natural biology. Instead of a grueling 8-hour marathon, I want you to think in sprints. Our brains are hardwired to work in these 90-minute focused cycles. They're called Ultradian Rhythms. The strategy is so simple. Go all in with intense focus for 90 minutes, then, and this is non-negotiable, fully disengage for a 15 to 20-minute recovery break. Then you just repeat the cycle. You're not fighting your brain anymore. You're working with it for sustainable high performance.
And we can scale that whole concept up. I want you to treat your big projects like an athlete training for a competition. First, you define an intense work sprint, maybe for 1 to 4 weeks. But, and this is the key, you schedule and design your recovery period before the sprint even begins. Recovery isn't what happens if you have time left over. It's a mandatory, scheduled part of the process.
As we wrap up, I really want to elevate this from just a set of personal productivity hacks to what it really is, a core leadership philosophy. Because the future of effective leadership doesn't belong to the person who can work the most hours. It belongs to the person who can best manage their energy.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. Managing your energy isn't selfish. It's not an indulgence. It is a fundamental responsibility. Why? Because leadership is contagious. A burned-out, frantic leader creates a burned-out, frantic team. But an energized, focused leader, they create a culture where everyone has a chance to thrive.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. After everything we've talked about, what is the one small change you will commit to making today to start managing your most valuable asset? Because that single change, however small it seems, is where sustainable leadership truly begins.